Decades, motoring champion Peter Brock was the proud face of Holden. Today, his former wife, Bev, lamented the car giant's decision to not only stop production but also close every Holden dealership.
Holden, you in my Holden. Life is simply sublime.
Absolutely gutted, like every other true-blood Australian.
I'll be holding you.
Cars built by Australians for Australians.
Oh, I like the noise. I tell you what, once the Holden name goes off it, that noise will be nothing like that. It won't be as good.
There's nothing more Aussie than a Holden, and there's nothing more Holden than Peter Brock. The King of the Mountain drove Holden to success on and off the track for more than 50 years.
Checkered flag for Peter Brock.
And it's an era that's helped shape Australia and make Australians who they are, you know.
The motorsport legend died 14 years ago. His wife Bev says Brocky would be gutted by GM's decision.
He would be absolutely devastated. I mean, he accepted the fact that everything has to change, but I don't think he would have been happy to see, well, I know he wouldn't have been happy to see this change at this degree. And motor racing won't be the same.
I once got taken around Amaroo Park by Peter Brock, and it was the most frightening thing but the most exciting thing I've ever done.
He had an expert behind the wheel.
Yeah, well, I've done a few flights around the world, but more frightening was this trip around the racetrack with Peter Brock. It was unbelievable.
Brands like Dick Smith and Holden are burned into the Australian psyche.
What I loved about Holden is it was Australian. Now, we never owned it, of course. It was always owned by General Motors, but the fact that it was an Australian name and the car was designed for Australia.
But Holden was tapping a very different type of horsepower when it first started off. An Adelaide-based saddlery in the mid-1800s was transformed when the mighty US General Motors contracted Holden as a motor body fitter in 1924. World War II applied the handbrake to plans for full-scale local production. But in 1948, Australia's first homegrown Holden rolled off the assembly line. It was a car for lovers and lovers of cars, for families that fancied a bit of flair. The Lion badge went on to dominate our car industry for the next half a century, shaping our nation's culture until the early 2000s. But it was 18 years ago when Holden last topped the local sales charts, and 3 years since GM pulled the pin on local manufacturing.
General Motors have done a proper survey on this, on public opinion, and most people just want the best at the lowest price, and that's why they're going to knock the brand off.
Still, the announcement comes as a shock. GM will close its Melbourne design studio and test track, cutting 600 jobs.
We need a Donald Trump, really, if you want to have a car industry. But most importantly, with globalisation, because we share the wealth better here, Aussies get paid better than most other countries, we'll end up with manufacturing nothing and we won't have any of our own brands.
And of course that means no Aussie jobs.
It's reduction in Aussie jobs, real pity.
Our first car was an FJ Holden, you know, 7 kids crammed into it. So many memories, and to think that they are in their decline, that they are now going to be tucked away in the annals of history is extremely sad, but I feel more for the people who lose their jobs, whose life has been Holden.
Oh well, Dick, give her one more rev and then turn her off and say goodbye.
Well, bye-bye, Holden. We had a great love affair, but bye-bye.
It is sad. GM has pledged to provide fair redundancy packages for staff and compensation for dealers.